The prosthetic arm hit the table with a sound like a gunshot. Silverware rattled. Conversation stopped. A woman 3 tables over gasped. "There!" Sarah's voice cracked, but her real hand was steady as she unbuckled the flesh-colored sleeve from what remained of her right shoulder. "Is this what you wanted to see?" Derek recoiled. Jesus Christ. The real me. Sarah continued, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Fat. Disabled. 48 years old and still stupid enough to think, put it back on. Derek's chair scraped backward. People are staring. Good. Sarah's eyes blazed. Let them watch what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. What happened next would change everything. But the real story started 3 hours earlier with a lie Sarah told herself in the bathroom mirror. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. 3 hours earlier. Sarah's shoulder screamed. She'd been wrestling with the prosthetic clasps for 10 minutes, fingers slipping on the buckles. Cold October rain hammered the bathroom window. Phantom pain shot through nerves that no longer existed, a cruel reminder that her body remembered what her mind tried to forget. Come on, come on. She yanked the final strap tight. The prosthetic clicked into place. Flesh-colored silicone mechanical joints hidden under the sleeve of her navy dress. In the mirror, if she stood just right, tilted her chin up, sucked in her stomach. Her phone buzzed on the sink. Derek. Running late. Traffic's hell. Order without me. Sarah stared at the message. Typed. No problem. Deleted it. Typed. Actually, I need to tell you something. Deleted that too. What was she supposed to say? Hey, by the way, I'm an amputee. Sorry, my profile photos were strategic crop jobs. Hope you don't mind dating damaged goods. Mom. Emma's voice cut through the door. You're spiraling. I can hear you breathing. Sarah opened the door. Her daughter stood in the hallway, 24, and beautiful in ways that made Sarah's chest tight. Emma had inherited her father's Korean features, sharp cheekbones, clear skin. Nothing like Sarah's round face and thick body, the extra 60 pounds she'd gained after the accident. After David left. After everything fell apart. I'm fine, Sarah said. You're lying. Emma crossed her arms. And you're about to lie to Derek too. I'm not. Your photos. The ones where your right arm's always mysteriously out of frame. Emma's voice was gentle but firm. That's called lying by omission, Mom. Sarah's throat tightened. I'll tell him, just not in a text message. When then? After he falls for fake you. There is no fake me. The words came out sharper than Sarah intended. This arm, she lifted her right hand, the prosthetic fingers curled in their default position. It doesn't define who I am. Then why hide it? Because men run. Sarah thought. Because the last 3 guys made that crystal clear. Michael, date 1. He'd knocked over a water glass, reaching for the check. Sarah's prosthetic hand had jerked, trying to catch it, movements robotic and delayed. The way his face changed. The excuse about an early morning meeting. The unanswered texts. Brian, date 2. Spent 90 minutes showing her photos of his ex-wife's CrossFit competitions. Stephanie could deadlift 225, he'd said, eyes scanning Sarah's body. She really valued fitness. Tom, date 3. She'd told him about the accident over appetizers. He'd nodded sympathetically, asked intelligent questions, even held her hand across the table. Then ghosted her so completely she'd checked to make sure he was still alive on Facebook. I need to finish getting ready, Sarah said. Emma sighed. Reached out and fixed Sarah's collar, a gesture so maternal it made Sarah want to cry. Mom, if he can't handle the real you, he doesn't deserve any version of you. That's easy to say when you're young and whole. The words hung between them. Emma's eyes flashed. You think I don't understand? I watch kids die, Mom. I hold their parents while they fall apart. I know what broken looks like. She paused. You're not broken. You're just scared. Sarah looked away. I should go. Yeah. Emma stepped back. You should. But Mom, one thing. What? If he says something cruel, and I mean when, because guys like this always do, don't you dare shrink. You're worth 10 of him. Remember that. Yeah. The Riverside Grill sat on the corner of 5th and Main, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. Sarah had passed it 100 times on her way to St. Catherine's Hospital. Never thought she'd be here on a date, stomach churning, hands shaking. She arrived 16 minutes early, chose a corner booth, positioned herself so her right side faced the wall. The waiter appeared young, maybe 25, with kind eyes and a smile that reached them. Evening, ma'am. Can I start you with something to drink? Water's fine. I'm waiting for someone. First date. He grinned at her expression. You've checked your phone 4 times in 30 seconds. Dead giveaway. Sarah managed to laugh. That obvious? Hey, whoever he is, he's lucky. That dress is killer. The compliment landed soft and genuine. Sarah felt her shoulders relax a fraction. Thank you. I'm Marcus, by the way. Holler if you need anything. Marcus walked away, and Sarah was alone again. She pulled out her phone. No new messages from Derek. She opened her photos instead, scrolling to the ones she'd sent him. There, that one at Emma's graduation. Sarah hugging her daughter, both of them laughing. Sarah's prosthetic arm hidden completely behind Emma's back. The angle made Sarah look 20 pounds lighter. Another Sarah at Navy Pier. Wind whipping her hair, genuine smile, left hand shading her eyes. Right arm cropped out entirely. A third headshot from her hospital badge photo. Professional. Friendly. Completely misleading about her body. I'm a liar, Sarah thought. I'm a coward, and a liar, and Sarah. She looked up. Derek stood beside the booth, 6'2", athletic build, salt and pepper hair that probably cost more to maintain than Sarah's mortgage. His suit screamed corporate lawyer. His cologne screamed expensive. His eyes screamed disappointment. She watched it happen in real time. His gaze started at her face, approved, dropped to her chest, her waist, her hips hesitated, came back up. The smile that followed was 3 seconds too late. Derek, hi. Sarah slid out of the booth to shake his hand. Used her left, her right stayed at her side, fingers locked in their permanent curl. Traffic bad. Nightmare. Sorry I'm late. He sat across from her, already pulling out his phone. Mind if I check messages? Work thing? Sure. He typed for 90 seconds. Sarah counted. Finally looked up. So, you look nice. The pause before nice lasted a heartbeat too long. Thank you, Sarah said. You too. Marcus reappeared. Derek ordered a craft IPA without looking at the menu. Sarah asked for white wine, something to do with her hands. This place is great, Derek said, glancing around. Client recommended it. Says the steaks are incredible. I've heard that. You been here before? No, first time. Cool. Derek drummed his fingers on the table, checked his phone again. So, physical therapy. That must be rewarding. Sarah recognized the shift from genuine interest to polite small talk. She'd heard it before. The tone men used when they'd already written you off but were too polite to leave before appetizers. It is, she said anyway. I work mostly with accident victims, stroke patients, people relearning how to use their bodies after trauma. Trauma, right. Derek flagged down Marcus. Can we get some bread or something, starving? Of course. Marcus shot Sarah a look. You okay? And disappeared. So listen, Derek said, leaning back. His body language was already closing off, arms crossed, legs angled toward the exit. I gotta be honest with you. Here it comes, Sarah thought. Your photos, they were like really flattering. Sarah's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. Excuse me. I'm not trying to be a dick, just, you look different in person. Derek shrugged. Heavier, you know. The angles must have been really good. The wine turned to acid on Sarah's tongue. I see. Don't get me wrong, you're still attractive. Just not what I expected. 7 years of therapy. 7 years of Emma saying you're beautiful, mom. 7 years of learning to look in mirrors without flinching. Gone. All of it gone in the time it took this stranger to say heavier. And what exactly did you expect, Derek? He had the audacity to look annoyed. Look, I'm just being honest. I work out 6 days a week, CrossFit, meal prep, the whole thing. I need a partner who values fitness the same way. And you can tell I don't value fitness by looking at me. I mean, he gestured vaguely at her body. Yeah. Sarah set down her wine glass with exaggerated care. Her left hand was steady. Her right trembled mechanical tremors the prosthetic made when she was stressed. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Sure. Do you know what it's like to have your body betray you? Derek frowned. What? To wake up one day and have everything change, to fight your way back and still lose. Sarah. 7 years ago, I was driving home from my daughter's dance recital, T-boned by a drunk driver running a red light. Sarah's voice was steady now, cold. 17 hours of surgery. My right arm was crushed below the shoulder. The doctors saved my life, but not the arm. Derek's eyes widened. Finally, he noticed that her right arm hadn't moved once. Not to pick up her wine glass, not to gesture, not even to brush hair from her face. They amputated, Sarah continued. 4 months in the hospital, another year of physical therapy. You want to know why I gained weight, depression medication, limited mobility, and my ex-husband who left 6 months after the accident because he didn't sign up for damaged goods. Wait, your arm is... Derek's face went pale. Sarah reached under the table, found the release buckle hidden beneath her sleeve. Her fingers. Her real fingers worked the clasp. The prosthetic came free with a soft click. She lifted it with her left hand and placed it on the table between the dinner plates. Silicone skin. Mechanical joints. Battery pack visible at the shoulder joint. The restaurant didn't go quiet. That only happened in movies. But the couple at the next table stopped talking. A woman behind Derek turned to stare. Without the prosthetic, Sarah's shoulder ended in a rounded stump. Scar tissue formed patterns like tree roots visible above her dress line. There, Sarah said. Tears streamed freely now, hot and angry. Is this what you needed to see the real me, fat and disabled? Derek stared at the prosthetic like it was radioactive. Jesus Christ, put that back on. Why, you were already judging my body. At least now you have the complete picture. People are staring. Let them stare. Sarah's voice rose. You've been staring all night, calculating whether I'm worth the effort. Well, here's your answer. I'm not. I'm too fat, too broken, too much trouble. You lied to me. Derek stood abruptly. His chair hit the couple behind him. Your photos, you deliberately hid this. I cropped some pictures. You lied about being a decent person. I can't. Derek fumbled for his wallet, threw 2 20s on the table. They landed in the breadbasket. Enjoy your dinner. Maybe use the change to join a gym. The words hit like a slap. Sarah heard gasps, saw heads turn, watched Derek storm toward the exit, expensive shoes clicking on marble tile. Then he was gone. Sarah sat frozen. Her prosthetic arm sat between the plates like an accusation. The stump of her real shoulder throbbed. Phantom pains shot through fingers that no longer existed. Marcus appeared with a towel. Started cleaning up spilled water Sarah didn't remember spilling. His hands were gentle. He didn't look at the prosthetic. Miss, I'm so... Don't. Sarah's voice came out broken. Please don't apologize. I can't. Your check's been taken care of. What? Marcus gestured across the restaurant. The gentleman at booth 12. Sarah followed his gaze. A man sat alone, mid-50s, dark hair graying at the temples, wearing a simple blue Oxford shirt. He wasn't looking at her directly, but Sarah felt his attention like heat. Before she could process this, the man stood, picked up his coffee cup, walked toward her table with the kind of calm that comes from surviving something terrible and learning when to act. "Ma'am." His voice was deep, Midwestern accent, Chicago native. "I'm sorry to intrude, but that man was wrong. On every level, he was wrong." Sarah looked up at him. Really looked. He had sad eyes, the kind that had seen too much and chose kindness anyway. A pale line on his left ring finger where a wedding band used to be. Calluses on his hands that suggested work, not gym memberships. "You don't have to," she started. "I know." He gestured to the empty seat. "May I, just for a minute?" Sarah nodded, too exhausted to argue. The man sat, set his coffee cup down carefully. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. "My name's James," he said finally. "James Morrison. And I think I know why I came to this restaurant tonight." "I don't understand." James smiled sadly. 3 years ago today, my wife died. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. Our daughter Rebecca was 18, about to start college. He paused. "I've been coming here every October 15th since. Order the salmon Catherine loved. Pretend she's sitting across from me. Pathetic, right?" Sarah felt something shift in her chest. "No, it's love." "Is it? Or is it refusing to move forward?" "Maybe both." James studied her face. His eyes dropped to the prosthetic, then back up. No flinch. No pity. Just acknowledgement. "Can I tell you why I'm really at your table?" he asked. "Please." "Because I watched what just happened, and I couldn't stay quiet. That man doesn't deserve another second of your thoughts." James leaned forward. "And you deserve so much better than what he gave you. You don't know me. I know enough." His voice was firm. "I know you had the courage to show up tonight. I know when cruelty walked in, you met it head-on instead of shrinking. I know you literally exposed your vulnerability rather than accept his judgment." He paused. "That's more than most people manage in a lifetime." Sarah felt fresh tears forming. "I lied to him. About my arm." "Did you?" James shook his head. "Or did you simply decide when to share something deeply personal? There's a difference between dishonesty and protecting yourself. My daughter said the same thing. Smart kid. She's a pediatric oncology nurse. Tells dying children they're brave even when they're terrified." Sarah picked up her prosthetic with her left hand, turning it over. "Sometimes I wonder where she gets that strength. Not from me." "You sure about that?" James asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, you just told off a man who tried to shame you. Used your own vulnerability as a weapon. That's not weakness." Marcus reappeared with 2 cups of coffee and a basket of bread. Set them down without being asked. "On the house," he said quietly. "Both of you." After Marcus left, James wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. "Can I tell you about my daughter?" "Please." "Rebecca's a photographer now, really talented. But after Catherine died, she stopped taking pictures, said the world was too ugly to capture." James smiled softly. "Then she met Lisa, another photographer who'd lost sight in one eye to childhood cancer. Lisa told Rebecca that limitations don't erase beauty, they change how you see it." "What happened?" "Rebecca's last exhibition was called Partial Sight. Every photo taken with one eye closed. She said losing her mother taught her that you don't need to see everything to understand it. You just need to pay attention to what remains." Sarah felt something crack open in her chest. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you already know you're strong. You just forgot for a minute." James met her eyes. "And because Rebecca taught me that the right people don't see past your scars. They see the strength it took to survive getting them." They sat in silence. Outside, rain hammered the windows. Inside, the restaurant hummed with conversation and clinking silverware. normal life continuing around them. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said finally. "Anything." "What are you really doing here? You said you didn't know why you came." James looked down at his wedding ring, still there after 3 years, hung on a chain around his neck now. "Honestly, I came here to say goodbye. To Catherine, to our anniversary dinners, to the routine I've been using to avoid moving forward." He laughed softly. "Then I saw you walk in, watched you try to make yourself smaller in that booth, saw that asshole destroy you with 6 words. "You look heavier, you know," Sarah quoted bitterly. "And I thought, no, not tonight, not on Catherine's anniversary." James's jaw tightened. She spent her whole career fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Pediatric oncology nurse. The best one I ever met. If she were here, she'd have thrown that guy through the window. Sarah's breath caught. "Your wife was a pediatric nurse." "At St. Catherine's. 3rd floor oncology, 17 years. I work at St. Catherine's." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "5th floor. Physical therapy." They stared at each other. The coincidence hung between them too large to be random. "I probably passed her in the elevators," Sarah said. "Probably?" James smiled. "She had a thing about elevators. Always took the stairs when she could. Said hospitals had too much sadness. She needed to move her body to process it." "I do that too," Sarah admitted. "After the accident, elevators made me panic. Enclosed spaces. So I take the stairs. Even with—" She gestured to her shoulder. "How many floors?" 5. Every day." James's expression shifted. "Respect, maybe. Or recognition. Catherine would have liked you." The words hit different than any compliment Derek had fumbled. Simple. True. Given without expectation. "I would have liked her too," Sarah said. Marcus appeared again. "Folks, I hate to interrupt, but we're closing soon. Can I get you anything else?" James looked at Sarah. "Are you hungry? Because that salmon's supposed to be incredible." Sarah glanced at her watch. 9:45. Emma would be asleep by now. The apartment would be dark and quiet. She could go home, put on pajamas. Let Derek's words replay in her head until she convinced herself he was right. Or, "I'm starving," Sarah said. James grinned. 2 salmons, Marcus, and whatever dessert you're hiding back there." "Tiramisu's fresh," Marcus said. "You won't regret it." After Marcus left, James raised his coffee cup. "To Catherine, who taught me that courage looks like showing up even when it hurts." Sarah raised hers. "To Emma, who tells me I'm worth more than I believe." Their cups clinked. And for the first time in 7 years, Sarah felt something shift. Not healed healing took longer than one dinner, but different. Like maybe, just maybe, the world had people in it who saw her completely and didn't look away. What Sarah didn't know yet, what neither of them knew, was that someone else was watching from the kitchen doorway. Someone who'd seen everything and was already planning what came next. But that was still hours away. For now there was just salmon and coffee and 2 broken people discovering that sometimes the best thing that happens to you wears a simple blue shirt and orders tiramisu without asking. Sometimes it looks like a stranger who chooses kindness over comfort. Sometimes it's exactly what you need, disguised as someone else's grief. The story was just beginning. The salmon arrived 20 minutes later, plated like art. Marcus set down both dishes with a flourish, added extra lemon wedges without being asked, and disappeared before James could thank him. Sarah stared at her plate. When was the last time she'd eaten a real meal, not standing over the sink? Not shoving cold pizza in her mouth between patients? An actual sit-down dinner, where someone across the table wasn't calculating her calorie intake. "You okay?" James asked. "I'm trying to remember if I know how to do this." "Do what?" "Eat in front of someone without apologizing for it." James set down his fork. "That's the saddest thing I've heard all week. And I spent Tuesday at a grief support group where a guy talked about his dead cat for 40 minutes. Sarah laughed, despite herself. You go to grief support, court mandated. Well, Rebecca mandated. She staged an intervention 6 months after Catherine died. Said I either got help or she was moving back home to babysit me. James cut into his salmon. Turns out, having your college-age daughter threaten to put her life on hold is pretty motivating. Smart girl. Too smart. Gets it from her mother. James took a bite, closed his eyes. God, that's good. Catherine always said food tastes better when you're not eating alone. Sarah picked up her fork with her left hand. The motion was automatic now, 7 years of adaptation. Cut the salmon into small pieces. Spear 1. Lift it to her mouth. The first bite exploded with flavor. Butter lemon, something herbed she couldn't identify. Her eyes actually watered. Good, James asked. I forgot food could taste like this. Like what? Like someone gave a damn about making it. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, the restaurant was emptying out. A couple by the window paid their check. An older man helped his wife into her coat. Normal people doing normal things. Sarah had forgotten what that felt like. Can I ask you something personal? James said. After the night I've had, personal seems pretty relative. Fair point. James set down his knife. That guy Derek, was he your first date since the accident? Third, fourth, if you count coffee with a guy who spent the entire hour showing me blockchain presentations. Sarah took a long drink of wine. Why? Because I'm trying to figure out if all men are that terrible, or if you've just had monumentally bad luck. Little of both, probably. Sarah pushed salmon around her plate. The first guy made an excuse and left before appetizers. The second spent 90 minutes talking about his ex-wife's fitness routine. The third seemed great until I told him about my arm. Then he vanished so completely, I checked Facebook to make sure he was alive. Jesus! Yeah, so tonight I thought maybe if I just didn't mention it up front, if I could get someone to see me first, the actual me before they saw the disability. Sarah's voice cracked. Turns out being fat disqualifies you before the arm even matters. James was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tight. Catherine gained 40 pounds during chemo. Steroids, fluid retention, stress eating. She hated it. Cried every time she looked in the mirror. I'm sorry. Don't be. Let me finish. James met her eyes. One night, about 3 weeks before she died, she asked me if I still found her attractive. And I looked at this woman bald from chemo, bloated from medication, skin gray, from poison they pumped into her veins, and you know what I saw? Sarah shook her head. I saw the girl who kissed me in a hospital supply closet on our first date. I saw the woman who sang Chicago off-key in the delivery room to stay calm. I saw my wife. James's voice was fierce now. Her body changed. So what bodies change? They break, they heal, they betray us. But the person inside, that's what matters. Not everyone sees it that way. No. But the people worth keeping do. Sarah felt something shift in her chest. Not healed, but different. Your wife was lucky to have you. I was the lucky one, trust me. James took another bite of salmon. Chewed. Swallowed. Can I tell you what happened the day she died? You don't have to. I want to. James stared at his plate. She went into surgery at 7 a.m. Routine procedure, or it was supposed to be. Remove a small tumor in and out. The surgeon said 2 hours max. Sarah waited. At 8:30, a nurse came out, said there were complications. At 9:15, another update. They were working on it. At 10:47, I'll never forget the exact time the surgeon came out and told me Catherine had an allergic reaction to the anesthesia. Her throat closed up. They couldn't intubate fast enough. James. She was dead before I could say goodbye. Before Rebecca could drive from Northwestern. Before anything made sense. James's hands were shaking now. I spent 3 years asking why. Why her? Why that day? Why didn't I insist on being in the room? You couldn't have known. That's what everyone says. The grief counselor Rebecca, my sister, who flew in from Seattle. But here's what I finally figured out. James looked up. The why doesn't matter. It happened. She's gone. And I can either spend the rest of my life hiding from the world like it might hurt me again, or I can show up anyway. Is that why you came over to my table? Partially. Also because I watched that asshole destroy you and thought if Catherine were here she'd burn this place down. James smiled sadly. She had a thing about bullies. Couldn't stand them. Once threatened to report a doctor who yelled at a nurse, got herself written up for insubordination. I like her more every time you mention her. You would have been friends. She collected strays. That's what she called it. People everyone else gave up on. James paused. I was a stray once. Did I mention that? No. Met her in the ER. I was 26, broke my hand punching a wall after getting fired from my third job that year. Drunk, angry, feeling sorry for myself. Catherine was the nurse who set my cast. She took one look at me and said, "Whatever made you this mad, it's not worth destroying yourself over." Sarah felt herself smiling. What did you say? I told her to mind her own business. She said healing people was her business. Then she wrote her number on my discharge papers and told me to call when I was ready to stop being an idiot. James laughed. I waited 2 weeks out of spite. Best decision I ever made. What changed? I realized being angry was easier than being scared. And I was terrified that I'd never amount to anything, that I'd die alone in some crappy apartment with nothing to show for it. James finished his salmon. Catherine taught me that fear's just a story you tell yourself. You can rewrite it any time. Sarah absorbed this. Outside, a couple walked past the window holding hands. The woman laughed at something the man said. Easy, uncomplicated. I'm scared, Sarah admitted quietly. Of what? That Derek's right. That I'm too broken to deserve someone who sees me. She gestured to her shoulder. This isn't going to heal. I'm never getting my arm back. The weight, maybe I could lose it, I don't know. But even then, I'm still disabled. Still 48. Still damaged goods. Stop. James's voice was sharp. Sarah looked up, startled. Catherine spent 6 months watching her body betray her, hair falling out in chunks, skin turning yellow, losing 30 pounds until she looked like a skeleton. James's eyes were fierce. You know what she said 3 days before she died? She said, I'm not my body. My body's just the house I lived in. The real me is still here. I don't know if I believe that. You don't have to believe it yet, but you can't keep letting men like Derek define your worth. James leaned forward. Here's what I know. You showed up tonight even though you were scared. You told the truth even though it cost you. And when that jackass tried to shame you, you didn't shrink. That's not broken. That's brave. Sarah felt tears forming again. I don't feel brave. Brave people never do. They just show up anyway. Marcus appeared with 2 plates of tiramisu. Set them down carefully. Last call, folks. We're officially closed, but take your time. After Marcus left, James picked up his spoon. Catherine made me promise something before she died. What? That I wouldn't stop living just because she did. That I'd find joy again, even if it felt like betrayal at first. James took a bite of tiramisu, closed his eyes. I've been failing at that promise for 3 years, but tonight sitting here with you, I feel something I haven't felt since she died. What's that? Hope. Sarah's breath caught. James, I'm not hitting on you. I know that's not what this is. James set down his spoon. But I think we found each other for a reason tonight. You needed someone to tell you Derek was wrong. I needed to remember why Catherine loved helping people. I'm glad you came over. Me too. They finished the tiramisu in silence. Sarah's phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Text from Emma. You alive? Should I start calling hospitals? Sarah typed back. Alive. Actually having a good time. Tell you later. Emma's response was immediate. What? Details. Now. Sarah smiled, set down her phone. My daughter. She thinks I'm being murdered. Smart kid. You should probably prove you're alive. I will. Later. Sarah looked at James. Can I ask you something? Shoot. What happens now, I mean after tonight? Do we exchange numbers and pretend we'll stay in touch? Do we hug awkwardly in the parking lot and never speak again? Sarah's voice was smaller than she intended. I don't know the rules for this. James was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't either. It's been 3 years since Catherine died, and I haven't so much as looked at another woman. Not because I didn't want to, because I didn't know how to want anything again. And now I'm terrified. James laughed without humor. I'm 54 years old. I have a daughter who still needs me, even though she pretends she doesn't. I cry during car commercials. I haven't been on a date since 1998. I'm a mess. Join the club. Yeah, but here's the thing. James met her eyes. I like talking to you. I like that you don't bullshit me. I like that you put your prosthetic arm on the table and dared the world to deal with it. And I think maybe I'd like to see you again. Sarah's heart hammered. Like a date. Like coffee. Or dinner. Or just sitting in a parking lot talking about how terrifying it is to be alive. James shrugged. No pressure. No expectations. Just two people who survived things trying to figure out what comes next. I'd like that, Sarah said softly. Yeah. James pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I'll text you so you have mine. Sarah recited her number. A moment later, her phone buzzed. Message from unknown number. This is James, the guy who bought you salmon. Sarah saved his contact. Typed back, this is Sarah, the girl with one arm and zero poker face. James grinned at his phone. Zero poker face. Emma tells me I'm an open book. Every emotion shows up on my face uninvited. Good. I'm tired of people who hide what they're feeling. Marcus appeared with the check. James grabbed it before Sarah could reach. I can pay half, Sarah protested. Nope, this one's on me. You can get the next one. Presumptuous. Hopeful. They walked to the parking lot together. The rain had stopped, but the pavement was slick, reflecting streetlights in fractured patterns. Sarah's car was parked on the far side. James's truck, beat-up Ford F-150 with a Northwestern sticker, was closer. That's me, James said, pointing. Of course you drive a truck. What's that supposed to mean? Contractor handyman, you have that vibe. James laughed. Architect, actually. But I do my own renovations, so close enough. Architect, that's impressive. It's a living. Mostly I design schools and libraries, buildings meant to last. James unlocked his truck. What about you? How'd you end up in physical therapy? Long story. I've got time. Sarah leaned against her car. The metal was cold through her dress. I was pre-med in college. Johns Hopkins full scholarship. Planned to be a surgeon. What happened? I got married instead, to David, Emma's father. He was a resident 10 years older, seemed to have everything figured out. Sarah's voice went flat. He wanted a wife who'd support his career. I dropped out junior year, had Emma spent the next 20 years making sure his life ran smoothly. And then a drunk driver destroyed my arm, and David decided damaged wives weren't part of his 5-year plan. Sarah's jaw tightened. He left 6 months after the accident. Took the house, the savings, everything we'd built. I moved into a crappy apartment with Emma and went back to school at 41. Jesus Christ. Physical therapy felt right. I knew what it was like to relearn your body. Figured I could help other people do the same. Sarah shrugged with her left shoulder. Turns out losing everything gives you perspective. James stepped closer, not invading her space, just closing the distance. David's an idiot. Yeah, well, he's also remarried to a 28-year-old yoga instructor, so I guess he's winning. Is he? Because from where I'm standing, he gave up someone incredible for someone interchangeable. James paused. You raised a daughter who threatens to stage interventions. You rebuilt your entire life from scratch. You show up to dates even though men are terrible. That's not losing. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Why are you so nice to me? Because someone should be. And because... James stopped. Because what? Because Catherine would haunt me if I let you walk away thinking you're not worth fighting for. The words hung between them. Sarah's hand, her left hand, found the car door handle, held on. I should go, she said. Emma's probably freaking out. Yeah, me too. Rebecca texted me 6 times. James pulled out his keys. But Sarah... Yeah. Text me when you get home, so I know you made it safe. You don't have to. I know, but I want to. Sarah nodded, unlocked her car, slid into the driver's seat. James waited until she started the engine before walking to his truck. As Sarah pulled out of the parking lot, she glanced in the rearview mirror. James was still there watching her leave, making sure she was safe. When was the last time someone did that? The drive home took 20 minutes. Sarah's apartment was in Ravenswood, 3rd floor of a converted brownstone. Emma's car, a beat-up Honda Civic, sat in the driveway, lights on in the living room window. Sarah climbed the stairs slowly. Her shoulder ached from wearing the prosthetic all night. Phantom pains shot through fingers that didn't exist. By the time she reached her door, she was exhausted. Emma yanked the door open before Sarah could find her keys. Oh my God, you're alive! Emma pulled her into a hug. I was about to call the police. I texted you. Once, 3 hours ago. That's not enough data. Emma stepped back, studied Sarah's face. You've been crying. It was a complicated night. Derek was a jackass, wasn't he? How'd you know? Because you look like you got hit by a truck and somehow came out stronger. Emma crossed her arms. Spill. Everything. Sarah kicked off her heels, unstrapped the prosthetic and set it on the table. Her shoulders screamed relief. Derek told me I was too fat, that my photos were misleading, that he needed someone who valued fitness. Sarah sank onto the couch. So I took off my prosthetic and put it on the table, in the middle of the restaurant. Emma's eyes went wide. You what? I put it on the table, right between the bread basket and his water glass. Sarah laughed shakily. He freaked out, threw money at me and told me to join a gym. Then he left. Mom. Oh my God. Emma sat beside her. Are you okay? Surprisingly, yeah. Sarah pulled out her phone, showed Emma the texts from James. A stranger paid for my dinner. We talked for 2 hours. He lost his wife 3 years ago. Works at St. Catherine's. Well, his wife did. He's an architect. Emma read the messages. This is James, the guy who bought you salmon. She looked up. Mom? Is this a rom-com? Did you accidentally fall into a rom-com? I don't know what this is. Are you seeing him again? Maybe. He said coffee, or dinner, or parking lot conversations. Sarah took back her phone. I'm terrified. Of what? Of hoping, of believing someone might actually want me. Of getting hurt again. Sarah's voice cracked. What if he's just being nice? What if he sees me in daylight and changes his mind? Emma grabbed Sarah's hand, the real one scarred and calloused. Mom, listen to me. You are 48 years old. You survived a car accident that should have killed you. You put yourself through school with one arm while raising me alone. You help people relearn how to walk every single day. Emma's grip tightened. If this James guy can't see how incredible you are, that's his loss. But you don't get to shrink just because Derek was cruel. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Emma smiled. Now text him. Let him know you made it home. Sarah pulled up James's contact. Typed, home safe. Thank you for tonight. You saved me in more ways than one. The response came in seconds. You saved yourself. I just reminded you that you could. Then another message, coffee tomorrow. There's a place near St. Catherine's. Good espresso, terrible muffins. My treat. Sarah looked at Emma. He wants coffee tomorrow. Say yes. What if... Mom, say yes. Sarah took a breath. Typed, yes. What time? James 7:30. Before your shift, Sarah. Perfect. See you then. Emma read over her shoulder. 7:30, that's early. He remembered I work at St. Catherine's, asked about my schedule. Mom, this guy's either a serial killer or your person. There's no in between. Sarah laughed despite herself. How do I tell the difference? If you wake up in a bathtub full of ice, he's a serial killer. If you wake up happy, he's your person. Emma stood stretched. I'm going to bed. Try not to spiral, okay? I'll try. After Emma left, Sarah sat in the dark living room, phone in her left hand. The apartment was quiet, except for the radiator hissing. Outside Chicago hummed sirens in the distance, a dog barking, life continuing. Her phone buzzed. Another text from James. I'm probably overstepping, but I wanted you to know something. Sarah's heart hammered. What James tonight mattered. Not just for you. For me too. I've been stuck for 3 years going through motions, eating anniversary dinners alone, pretending I was okay. But talking to you reminded me what it feels like to be alive. So thank you. Sarah stared at the message. Read it 3 times. Typed, you're not overstepping, and you're welcome. Then, before she could overthink it, I was stuck too. Tonight unstuck me a little. So thank you back. James, we're quite a pair. Sarah, broken people finding broken people. James, or maybe whole people who forgot what that looked like. Sarah smiled at her phone. Set it down. Picked up her prosthetic and carried it to the bathroom. In the mirror, her shoulder stump was red and irritated from wearing the prosthetic all night. Scar tissue formed patterns like tree roots, ugly and permanent. But for the first time in 7 years, Sarah looked at her reflection and didn't flinch. She saw a woman who'd survived, who'd shown up even when it terrified her, who'd met cruelty with courage and found kindness on the other side. Maybe James was right. Maybe she wasn't broken. Maybe she was just healing in a way that looked different than she'd expected. Sarah's phone buzzed one more time. James, sleep. Well, Sarah, tomorrow's a new day. Sarah typed back, tomorrow's a new day. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Sarah believed it. Sarah woke at 5:30 to her alarm screaming. She'd slept 4 hours, maybe less. Dreams full of prosthetic arms turning into birds. Derek's face melting like wax. James, standing in a doorway she couldn't quite reach. Her phone showed 3 notifications. 2 from Emma asking if she was awake. 1 from James, sent at 6:15. Morning. Still on for coffee. No pressure if you changed your mind. Sarah's stomach flipped. She typed, still on. See you at 7:30. The response came immediately. Great. I'll be the guy drinking terrible coffee and pretending to read the paper. Sarah smiled, despite her exhaustion. Rolled out of bed. Her shoulder throbbed where the prosthetic had rubbed all night. In the bathroom mirror, the skin was raw and angry. She had 90 minutes to shower, dress, attach the prosthetic, drive to the coffee shop, and not have a complete breakdown. Totally manageable. Emma knocked on the bathroom door. You're actually going? Don't sound so shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm terrified you're going to spiral and cancel. Emma pushed the door open. She wore scrubs, hair pulled back, ready for her shift at Children's Memorial. Want me to come with you? I can lurk in the corner like a creepy bodyguard. I'm 48, not 16. Then act like it. No canceling. No self-sabotage. Emma grabbed Sarah's good hand. Promise me. I promise. Say it like you mean it. Emma. Mom. This matters. You matter. Emma's voice cracked. I've watched you shrink for 7 years, making yourself smaller so other people feel comfortable. Last night you stopped shrinking. Don't start again just because you're scared. Sarah pulled Emma into a hug. When did you become the parent? About the time Dad left and you fell apart. Emma squeezed tighter. I got you. Now go get coffee with your maybe boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend. Yet. Sarah arrived at the coffee shop at 7:28. Ground floor of an old brick building, windows fogged from steam, the smell of espresso so strong it made her eyes water. Through the window she spotted James at a corner table, blue shirt again, reading the Tribune coffee cup already half empty. He looked up as she walked in, smiled, stood. You came, he said. You sound surprised. Little bit. I figured you'd wake up and realize I'm a 54-year-old widower with baggage and questionable life choices. James gestured to the chair across from him. What can I get you? You don't have to. Sarah, let me buy you coffee. It's literally the least I can do after last night. James was already walking toward the counter. Regular decaf. Something with 14 ingredients I can't pronounce. Latte, 2 sugars. Brave choice. Their espresso tastes like battery acid. You said the muffins were terrible, not the coffee. I lied. Everything here is terrible, but it's close to the hospital and open early. James ordered paid returned with her latte and a blueberry muffin the size of her head. I got you a muffin anyway. Live dangerously. Sarah stared at the muffin. Derek's voice echoed in her head. Maybe use the change for a gym membership. Her throat tightened. James caught her expression. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing, just... Sarah forced a smile. Muffins have a lot of calories. So I'm already too fat for most men. Adding a muffin probably isn't helping. James set down his coffee with exaggerated care. Sarah, look at me. She did. That asshole last night poisoned your brain. You know that, right? James's voice was gentle but firm. He said cruel things because he's cruel, not because you deserve them. I know that. Intellectually, I know. Sarah picked at the muffin wrapper. But there's knowing, and then there's believing. And right now believing is hard. Then let me believe for you until you can do it yourself. James broke off a piece of muffin, ate it. See, delicious, calorie-filled, worth every bite. Now your turn. Sarah took a small piece, chewed. It was terrible, dry and flavorless, and probably 3 days old. But James was watching her with such hopeful expectation that she swallowed anyway. It's awful, she said. I know, but you ate it. That's what matters. They sat in silence for a moment. The coffee shop filled up around them. Nurses in scrubs grabbing to-go cups. Construction workers arguing about the bears. Normal people living normal lives. Can I ask you something? Sarah said finally. Anything. Why me, I mean really? You could have ignored what happened last night. Could have finished your anniversary dinner and gone home. Why get involved? James stirred his coffee. Honest answer. Please. Because Catherine would have kicked my ass if I didn't. James smiled sadly. She had this thing about bystanders, said the world's full of people who see cruelty and look away. She refused to be one of them. She sounds incredible. She was. Stubborn as hell, though. Once she decided you needed saving, that was it. You were her project. James paused. There was this kid on her floor, 7-year-old with leukemia. Parents were undocumented, terrified of being deported if they brought him to the hospital too often. Catherine found out they were skipping appointments because of fear. What did she do? Set up a fund. Personally. Paid for transportation, translators, everything. Spent her own money until the hospital's social services caught up. James's eyes were distant. She never told me. I found out after she died, going through her bank statements. $20,000 over 2 years. Sarah's breath caught. 20,000. She worked double shifts to cover it. Told me she was picking up extra hours to save for Rebecca's college. Meanwhile, she was bankrupting herself for a kid whose parents couldn't say thank you without risking everything. James's voice cracked. That's who she was. Someone who couldn't watch suffering without doing something about it. And last night watching Derek, I heard Catherine's voice in my head, clear as anything. What are you waiting for, Jimmy? An engraved invitation. James laughed. She was the only person who called me Jimmy, hated it from anyone else. But when she said it, I don't know, made me feel like I could do anything. Sarah felt tears forming. She'd be proud of you. I hope so. Most days I'm just trying not to disappoint her memory. James looked up. What about you? What would Emma say about this? About us having coffee? She threatened to lurk in the corner like a bodyguard. James grinned. Smart kid. Protective. She's had to be. After David left, she basically became the parent. Made sure I ate. Drove me to physical therapy. Sat with me when I couldn't stop crying. Sarah's voice went quiet. I failed her. I was supposed to be the strong one, and I just fell apart. You didn't fail her. You were human. James leaned forward. Can I tell you what I see when you talk about Emma? What? I see a woman who raised a daughter so incredible that she grew up knowing how to take care of people. Who's compassionate enough to work with dying children? Who loves her mother enough to stage interventions? James paused. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because someone taught her those things. Someone showed her what strength looks like even in the falling apart. Sarah wiped her eyes with her left hand. You're really good at this. At what? Saying exactly what I need to hear. 3 years of grief therapy. I'm full of useful platitudes. James checked his watch. Shit, you have to be at work soon. 20 minutes. Sarah stood. I should go. James stood too. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then James did something unexpected. He pulled a pen from his pocket and wrote on a napkin. What's that? Sarah asked. My address. I'm renovating a house in Lincoln Park. Been working on it since Catherine died. Therapy, basically. Tearing down walls and rebuilding them. James handed her the napkin. If you want to see what I do, or just need somewhere to escape for a while, door's always open. Sarah took the napkin. That's very trusting. Or very stupid. Rebecca says I have no sense of self-preservation. James smiled. But I don't know. Something about you feels safe. Safe. Like I can say the terrible things I'm thinking and you won't run. James grabbed his jacket. Can I walk you to your car? They walked outside together. The morning was cold October wind cutting through Sarah's coat. Her prosthetic ached where it connected to her shoulder. She needed to adjust the straps, but didn't want to do it in front of James. You okay? James asked. Fine. Just the prosthetic rubs sometimes, especially if I wear it all day. Does it hurt? More uncomfortable than painful, like wearing shoes that don't quite fit. Sarah unlocked her car. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be used to pain. What's the alternative? Not wear it. Sarah's voice came out sharper than she intended. Sorry. It's just people act like the prosthetic's optional, like I could just not wear it and everything would be fine. I didn't mean... I know you didn't. But you don't understand what it's like. The stares, the questions, kids pointing, adults pretending not to notice while they absolutely notice. Sarah's hand tightened on the car door. The prosthetic makes me invisible. Without it, I'm a spectacle. James was quiet for a long moment. Catherine had a double mastectomy, year before she died. Cancer was in both breasts. They took everything. Sarah looked up. She wore prosthetics, silicone inserts in her bra, said it made people more comfortable, made her feel more normal. James's jaw tightened. One day about 6 months before she died, she stopped wearing them. Just stopped. Walked around flat-chested and didn't care who stared. What changed? She said she was tired of performing for strangers, tired of making other people comfortable with her body. James met Sarah's eyes. I asked her if she was sure, if she knew what people would say. You know what she told me? Sarah shook her head. She said, let them say it. I'm dying anyway. Might as well die honest. James's voice cracked. That was Catherine, brave until the very end. Sarah didn't know what to say. What could you say to that? I'm not telling you what to do. James continued. Wear the prosthetic. Don't wear it. Whatever makes you feel like yourself. I'm just saying you don't owe anyone comfort. Not Derek, not strangers, not even me. Sarah felt something shift in her chest. Thank you. For what? For getting it. For not trying to fix me. You're not broken, Sarah. You're just dealing with a shitty hand. James smiled softly. See what I did there? Sarah laughed despite herself. Terrible pun. Catherine loved terrible puns. Used to tell them to her patients to distract them during procedures. James checked his watch again. You really need to go or you'll be late. Yeah, I know. Sarah opened her car door, hesitated. James? Yeah. Can I see you again? Not coffee. Maybe dinner or the house you're renovating? James's face lit up. Really? Really? Tomorrow night I'll cook. Fair warning, I'm terrible at it. Catherine did all the cooking. I'll bring wine. Deal. Sarah drove to St. Catherine's with James's address burning a hole in her pocket. The hospital parking garage was packed. She ended up on the 5th floor, which meant stairs. 5 flights down with her shoulder already aching. She made it to the 3rd floor before she had to stop. Sat on the stairs breathing hard. Phantom pains shot through fingers that didn't exist. Her vision blurred. Hey, you okay? Sarah looked up. A woman stood on the landing above her. Late 50s gray hair pulled back wearing scrubs. Her badge read Maria Chen, RN Oncology. I'm fine, Sarah managed. Just taking a break. Maria came down the stairs, sat beside Sarah without asking. Prosthetic. Sarah's head snapped up. How'd you... 20 years in oncology. You see a lot of amputees. Post-cancer surgeries mostly. Maria gestured to Sarah's shoulder. The way you're holding it, I recognize the pain. Sarah felt her defenses crumble. It's rubbing. I adjusted it this morning, but I think I made it worse. You wearing it to impress someone? What, no? Uh-huh. Maria's expression was knowing. Let me guess. First date went well. Second date's tonight. You want to look normal. How did you... Like I said, 20 years. I've seen this story before. Maria stood, offered Sarah her good hand. Come on. I know a place you can readjust it. Private. No one will bother you. Sarah let Maria pull her up. They walked to the 3rd floor down a hallway Sarah had never noticed to a small room marked staff only. Inside was a couch, a coffee maker, and walls covered with photos. Kids, families, some healthy, some clearly sick. Some alive, some probably not anymore. This is the crying room, Maria said. Where nurses come when we can't hold it together anymore. Technically against hospital policy. Administratively, it doesn't exist. Sarah stared at the photos. Are these your patients? Some of them. Others are from nurses who came before me. Maria pointed to a photo of a bald girl, maybe 8, grinning despite the IV in her arm. That's Lily. Brain tumor. Died 3 years ago. Her mom was a nurse here. Catherine Morrison. Sarah's breath stopped. Catherine Morrison. You knew her? No. I her husband. James. We just met. Last night. Sarah couldn't breathe. He told me about her. About the work she did. Maria's expression softened. James is a good man. Broken but good. Catherine loved him more than anything. She paused. He doing okay? I think so. Maybe. We're having dinner tomorrow. Good. He needs someone. Been eating anniversary dinners alone for 3 years. Everyone's been worried. Maria handed Sarah a pillow. Here, put this under the prosthetic while you adjust it. Takes the pressure off. Sarah unbuckled her sleeve, slid the prosthetic off. Her shoulder was red and raw skin broken in 2 places. Jesus, Maria muttered. That's infected. You can't wear this today. I have to. I have patients. You have patients who need you healthy. That gets worse, you're looking at sepsis. Maria pulled out her phone. I'm texting orthotics. They'll bring you a sling. You wear that today. Tomorrow, you go get the prosthetic refitted. I can't just not wear it. Why not? You're a physical therapist. Your patients see disability every day. You think they're going to judge you. Maria's voice was firm. Catherine spent her last months refusing to wear wigs. Said if kids had to be bald from chemo, she could be bald from solidarity. You know what happened? What? Her patients loved her more, said she was real, said she got it. Maria sat beside Sarah. You wear that prosthetic because it makes you feel safe. I understand. But safety isn't always healing. Sarah looked at her shoulder, the angry red skin, the scars that would never fade. I'm scared. Of what? Of people seeing me, really seeing me, not the version I want them to see. Sarah's voice cracked. I met this man, James, and he's kind and broken and he sees me anyway. But what if he's the exception? What if everyone else just sees the disability? Then they're not your people. Maria squeezed Sarah's good hand. Catherine used to say something. She said, the right people don't need you to be easy. They just need you to be honest. You believe that. I'm trying to. Try harder. Maria stood. I'm getting you that sling. You're going to work without the prosthetic. You're going to be honest with your patients and yourself. And tonight, when you see James, you're going to be exactly who you are. Deal. Sarah nodded. Deal. Maria left. Sarah sat alone in the crying room, surrounded by photos of children who'd faced death with more courage than she'd ever managed. Her phone buzzed. Text from James. Thinking about you. Hope your day's going okay. Sarah typed, It's complicated. Tell you tonight, James. Can't wait. The orthotics department sent up a sling 20 minutes later, black fabric adjustable straps designed to immobilize arms post-surgery. Sarah put it on in the bathroom, staring at her reflection. Without the prosthetic, her right side ended at the shoulder. The stump was visible, scarred and ugly. The sling drew attention to what was missing. She looked disabled, visibly, obviously disabled. Sarah took a breath, walked out of the bathroom, down the hall to the PT wing. Her first patient was waiting, Ms. Rodriguez, 72, recovering from hip replacement. Ms. Rodriguez looked up as Sarah entered. Her eyes went to the sling, then to Sarah's face. What happened to you? Ms. Rodriguez asked. Nothing new, just finally being honest about what's always been there. Sarah sat down. Ready to work on those exercises? Ms. Rodriguez studied her for a long moment, then smiled. You know, I like you better this way. Why? Because now I don't feel so broken. If you can show up like this, maybe I can too. Sarah's throat tightened. Let's get you walking. The day passed in a blur. Patients stared. Some asked questions. Others pretended not to notice. But something strange happened. Sarah stopped apologizing for taking up space, stopped making herself smaller. By 5 o'clock, she was exhausted, but something else too. Lighter maybe, like she'd been carrying weight she didn't realize was there. Emma texted, How'd it go? Sarah sent back a photo. Her in the sling giving a thumbs up with her left hand. Emma's response, Mom. You're not wearing the prosthetic. Sarah. Nope. Emma. I'm so proud of you I could cry. Sarah. Don't. I'm barely holding it together as is. Emma. You seeing James tomorrow, Sarah? Tonight, actually. Dinner at his place. Emma. Tonight, Mom. Details. Now. Sarah smiled at her phone. Typed, later. I promise. She drove home, showered, stood in her closet trying to figure out what you wear to dinner with a widower who bought you salmon and made you believe you were worth something. Everything felt wrong. Too tight. Too revealing. Too trying too hard. Finally, she settled on jeans and a green sweater. Casual. Honest. Exactly who she was. Her phone rang. James. Hey, she answered. Hey. So, I have a confession. James sounded nervous. I said I'd cook. That was a lie. I burned 3 different attempts at chicken parmesan. My kitchen looks like a crime scene. Sarah laughed. What's plan B? Pizza. There's a place down the street that doesn't suck. We could eat here, though, at the house, if you still want to come. I want to come. Yeah. Yeah, text me the address. Already did. See you at 7. See you at 7. Sarah grabbed her keys. Checked her reflection one more time. The sling was obvious. Impossible to miss. Part of her wanted to put the prosthetic back on, make herself easier to look at. But Maria's words echoed, the right people don't need you to be easy. Sarah walked out the door wearing the sling. Drove to Lincoln Park with her heart hammering. Found James's address, a 3-story brownstone with scaffolding on one side and windows dark except for the first floor. She parked, sat in her car for a full minute breathing. Then her phone buzzed. James, I see you sitting in your car. You can come in or we can have dinner through the windshield. Your call. Sarah looked up. James stood in the doorway, backlit, grinning. She got out of the car, walked up the steps. James held the door open. You came, he said. You burned 3 chickens. In my defense, Catherine did all the cooking. I never learned. James stepped back. Come in. Ignore the disaster. I'm renovating. Sarah walked inside. The house was beautiful. Exposed brick, original hardwood floors, high ceilings. Half the walls were torn down to studs. Tools everywhere. Drop cloths covering furniture. This is incredible, Sarah breathed. It's a mess, but it's my mess. James led her to the kitchen. Pizza boxes sat on the counter. 2 plates, 2 wine glasses, candles. You set candles, Sarah said. Too much, I can blow them out. No, it's perfect. Sarah set down her purse. James poured wine. They stood in the kitchen, not quite knowing what to say. Then James noticed the sling. What happened? He asked. I stopped hiding. Sarah met his eyes. The prosthetic was rubbing, making things worse. A nurse told me I was wearing it for the wrong reasons, so I took it off. How'd that feel? Terrifying. Liberating. Both. Sarah took the wine glass with her left hand. Patients stared. Some asked questions, but no one treated me differently. If anything, they seemed more comfortable. Because you were more comfortable. Maybe. Sarah sipped her wine. I'm trying, to be honest, to stop performing. James set down his glass, stepped closer. Can I tell you something? Anything. You're braver than you think. Braver than I am, definitely. James's voice was soft. I've been hiding in this house for 3 years, tearing down walls instead of building new ones. You walked into a restaurant last night and faced your worst fear. That's courage. Or stupidity. Same thing sometimes. They stood there inches apart. Sarah could smell sawdust and wine and something else. Hope, maybe, or possibility. I'm glad you came over last night, Sarah said quietly. Me too. And I'm glad you burned 3 chickens. James laughed. Me too. The moment stretched. Then James cleared his throat. Pizza's getting cold. They ate on the floor, surrounded by drop cloths and power tools. James told stories about Catherine. Sarah told stories about Emma. The wine bottle emptied. The candles burned low. And for the first time in 7 years, Sarah felt something she'd forgotten existed. She felt whole. Sarah woke on James's couch at 2 in the morning with a crick in her neck and his jacket draped over her like a blanket. The house was dark except for a work light in the kitchen, casting long shadows across exposed brick. She sat up slowly. Her shoulder ached from sleeping at an odd angle. The sling had twisted around her torso. For a moment she couldn't remember where she was or how she'd gotten here. Then it came back. Pizza, wine, stories that stretched into hours. James talking about Catherine's last days. Sarah finally telling someone about the night David left, how he'd packed while she slept too much of a coward to say goodbye to her face. You fell asleep mid-sentence. James's voice came from the kitchen doorway. He held 2 mugs of coffee. I didn't want to wake you. Figured the couch was better than me trying to carry you upstairs and throwing out my back. Sarah accepted the coffee with her left hand. What time is it? Little after 2. I've been working. James gestured to the kitchen. I do my best thinking at night, when everything's quiet. I should go. Emma's probably freaking out. Already texted her from your phone. Hope that's okay. Told her you fell asleep and I wasn't going to wake you. James sat in the chair across from her. She sent back 3 thumbs up emojis and the word finally in all caps. Sarah laughed, despite her embarrassment. That sounds like Emma. She also said, and I quote, "If you hurt my mom, I will end you." She didn't. She did. I like her already. James sipped his coffee. How's your shoulder? Sore, but better without the prosthetic. Sarah adjusted the sling. I need to get it refitted. The orthotics department said they could do it this week. You nervous? About the fitting. About not wearing it. About people seeing you. Sarah considered this. Yes and no. Today was strange. I kept expecting patients to treat me differently, but most of them didn't even mention it. Because they were focused on their own problems. Or because it's not as big a deal as I made it in my head. Sarah set down her coffee. Can I ask you something? Always. When Catherine stopped wearing her prosthetics, the breast ones, how did you handle it? James was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, at first I hated it. Sarah's eyebrows rose. You hated it. Not her, not the decision, but what it represented. James stared into his coffee. When she wore the prosthetics, I could pretend things were normal. That cancer was something we'd beaten. But when she stopped, it was like she was admitting defeat, admitting she was dying. What changed? She did. Or maybe I did. I don't know. James set down his mug. One night, about a month before she died, we were lying in bed. She'd just gotten out of the shower. No prosthetics, no wig, just her. And she asked me if I still found her beautiful. Sarah's throat tightened. What did you say? I said yes, because it was true. She was still Catherine, still the woman who sang off-key and cried during car commercials and made me laugh when I wanted to give up. James's voice cracked. Her body was different. So what mine was too. I'd gained weight from stress, lost hair, got old. We were both changing. She was lucky to have you. I was the lucky one. James looked up. You know what she told me that night? Sarah shook her head. She said, Jimmy, I need you to promise me something. When I'm gone, don't let grief make you small. Don't hide from the world because you're scared of getting hurt again. James wiped his eyes. I've been failing at that promise for 3 years. Until last night. Last night. When I saw you put that prosthetic on the table. When I watched you choose honesty over comfort. When you walked into this disaster of a house wearing a sling and didn't apologize for it. James leaned forward. You reminded me what courage looks like, and I realized I'd been breaking my promise to Catherine by hiding here. Sarah felt tears forming. You're not hiding, you're healing. Am I, or am I just going through motions? James gestured to the half-demolished kitchen. I've been renovating this house for 3 years. You know how much I've actually finished one bathroom. That's it. Everything else is torn apart and left that way. Why? Because finishing it means admitting she's really gone, that I'm building a life without her. James's voice was barely a whisper. As long as it's unfinished, I can pretend I'm waiting for her to come home and tell me what color to paint the walls. Sarah stood, walked to where James sat, knelt in front of him with her one good hand on his knee. James, look at me. He did. Catherine's not coming home. You know that. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. But that doesn't mean you're betraying her by living. She'd want you to finish this house. She'd want you to be happy. How do you know what she'd want? Because I know what I'd want for Emma. If something happened to me tomorrow, I'd want her to live, to find love, to not spend the rest of her life in a half-finished house mourning me. Sarah squeezed his knee. Your grief doesn't honor Catherine. Your life does. James pulled Sarah into a hug. She went stiff for a moment, then relaxed into it. His arms wrapped around her carefully, avoiding her injured shoulder. They stayed like that for a long time, two broken people holding each other up. When they finally pulled apart, James's eyes were red, but clearer somehow. I want to show you something. He led her upstairs. The second floor was even more demolished than the first. Exposed studs everywhere, electrical wiring hanging loose. But at the end of the hall, one door was closed. James opened it. Inside was a completed bedroom. Pale blue walls, white furniture, photos covering every surface. Catherine and James on their wedding day. Catherine pregnant glowing. Catherine holding a baby. Catherine and a teenage girl at a graduation. This is Rebecca's room, James said quietly. I finished it first. Right after Catherine died. Spent 3 months getting every detail perfect. Sarah walked around slowly studying the photos. Catherine was beautiful. Dark hair, bright eyes, smile that lit up every picture. In some of the later ones, she was bald thin, clearly sick. But the smile never changed. She looks happy, Sarah said. She was, even at the end. James picked up a photo of Catherine in a hospital bed, bald and skeletal, giving a thumbs up to the camera. This was 2 days before she died. Rebecca took it. Catherine insisted. Said she wanted us to remember she fought with joy, not just pain. Sarah's vision blurred. She was extraordinary. Yeah. James set down the photo. Can I tell you my biggest fear? Please. That I'll forget her. Not the big things, but the small ones. The way she hummed while she cooked. The exact sound of her laugh. The way she said my name when she was annoyed. James's hands shook. It's been 3 years and already some things are fuzzy. What if 10 years from now I can't remember her at all? You'll remember. Maybe differently, but you'll remember. Sarah touched his arm. And even if some details fade, the important part stays. The love, the impact she had, the way she changed you. Is that what happened with your ex? Did you forget him? David, I wish I could forget him. Sarah's voice went hard. But no, I remember everything, every cruel comment, every time he made me feel small, every moment I chose him over myself. You don't talk about him much. Because there's not much to say. We met when I was 21. I was pre-med, full scholarship, bright future. He was a resident, confident, successful. Everything I thought I wanted. Sarah sat on Rebecca's bed. I got pregnant 3 months after we started dating. David said we should get married, do the right thing, so I dropped out of school and we got married. You didn't want to. Want to marry him? I don't know. I was 21 and terrified, and he seemed so sure of everything. Sarah's voice was flat. I spent the next 20 years making sure his life ran smoothly. His career came first, always. When Emma was little, I asked about going back to school. He said we couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford childcare if I was in classes. But he could afford medical conferences in Hawaii, a boat he used twice, golf club memberships, Sarah laughed bitterly. The thing is, I let him. I could have fought harder, could have demanded more. But it was easier to make myself small, to be the wife he wanted instead of the person I was. James sat beside her. What happened after the accident? He visited me once in the hospital, stood in the doorway like he was afraid to get too close, told me the doctors said I'd need extensive rehab, that our insurance might not cover everything, that this was going to be expensive. Sarah's jaw tightened. Never asked how I was, never asked if I was scared, just calculated the cost. Jesus Christ. He left 6 months later. Said he couldn't handle it. The disability, the medical bills, having a wife who needed help instead of giving it. Sarah wiped her eyes. You know what the worst part was? What? I apologized to him. I actually said I was sorry for being too much trouble. Sarah's voice cracked. Emma heard me. She was 17, standing in the hallway listening to her father leave and her mother apologize for existing. She's never forgiven him, barely speaks to him now. Good. He doesn't deserve her. No, he doesn't. Sarah stood, walked to the window. You asked why I hid my arm from Derek, from all of them. This is why. Because David taught me that my body was a transaction, that I had to earn love by being easy, by being perfect, and when I couldn't be perfect anymore, I became worthless. James stood behind her, didn't touch her, just presence. You're not worthless. I know that, intellectually. Sarah turned to face him. But knowing and believing are different things. You know that better than anyone. Yeah, I do. James took a breath. Can I tell you what I believe? What, Jim? I believe Catherine sent you to me. Or the universe did, or random chance lined up in exactly the right way. I don't know. James stepped closer. But I believe you walked into that restaurant at exactly the moment I needed to remember why being alive matters. And I believe you're not here by accident. James, let me finish, please. James's voice was urgent now. I believe you're beautiful. Not despite your arm. Not because I'm overlooking it. But because you're you. Smart. Brave. Honest. Someone who shows up even when it terrifies her. Someone who told Derek to go to hell, and then had dinner with a stranger. James paused. And I believe if we don't at least try this, whatever this is, we'll both regret it. Sarah's heart hammered. Try what? Being honest. Being scared together. Figuring out what happens when two broken people stop pretending they're fine. James reached out slowly, giving Sarah time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her left hand. I'm not asking you to be my girlfriend. I'm 54. That word feels ridiculous. But I'm asking if maybe we can see where this goes. Coffee, dinners, demolished houses and terrible pizza. No pressure. No expectations. What about Catherine? What about her? Won't it feel like betrayal, moving on? James smiled sadly. Catherine made me promise I'd find someone. Literally. On her deathbed, morphine high and barely conscious, she grabbed my hand and said, Don't you dare spend the rest of your life alone, Jimmy. Find someone who makes you laugh. Someone who sees you. I told her she was crazy. She said, Promise me. So I did. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. She really said that. She really did. Rebecca was there, heard the whole thing. James squeezed Sarah's hand. So no, it's not betrayal. It's keeping my promise. I'm terrified, Sarah whispered. Me too. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm too broken? What if you realize I'm not worth the effort? Sarah, look at me. James waited until she met his eyes. You're worth it. You're worth every scary conversation and awkward moment and fear that this might not work. Because maybe it won't. Maybe we'll figure out we're better as friends. Maybe the timing's wrong. Maybe I'm too stuck in grief, and you're too stuck in trauma, and we'll hurt each other. That's not a great sales pitch. I'm not done. But maybe we'll figure out that broken people can build something whole together. That grief and trauma don't disqualify you from love. They just change what love looks like. James pulled her closer. I want to try, if you do. Sarah thought about Emma's words, about Maria in the crying room, about Catherine's photos covering these walls, this woman she'd never met, who'd fought with joy instead of pain. She thought about Derek's cruelty and David's abandonment and 20 years of making herself small. Then she thought about James defending her in a restaurant, about coffee and terrible muffins and pizza on a construction site floor. Okay, Sarah said. Okay, let's try. James's smile was like sunrise. Yeah. Sarah squeezed his hand. But I need you to understand something. Anything. I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to spiral and self-sabotage and convince myself you're about to leave. I'm going to hear David's voice in my head telling me I'm not enough. Sarah's voice shook. And I'm going to need you to be patient while I figure out how to believe I'm worth staying for. Okay. But I need you to understand something too. James's voice was steady. I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to compare you to Catherine without meaning to. I'm going to have days where grief hits so hard I can't get out of bed. I'm going to be scared that moving forward means forgetting her. James paused. And I'm going to need you to be patient while I figure out how to love someone again without feeling guilty about it. Deal. They stood there in Rebecca's room, hands clasped, two damaged people making promises they weren't sure they could keep. Outside Chicago hummed through the night. Sirens. Car horns. Life continuing whether you were ready or not. Sarah's phone buzzed. Text from Emma. It's 3 a.m. Either you're having the best night ever or the worst. Please confirm you're alive and not murdered. Sarah showed James the message. He laughed. She's persistent. She's Emma. Sarah typed back. Alive. Not murdered. Tell you everything tomorrow. Emma. Tomorrow, you're staying there. Sarah looked at James. Am I? The guest room's finished. Bed's made. You're welcome to stay. James's voice was careful. Or I can drive you home. Whatever you're comfortable with. The guest room. Sarah. I'm not assuming anything. We just agreed to try this. Let's start with separate rooms and work our way up to... James stopped. I'm making this weird. Little bit. Sorry. It's been 25 years since I've done this. I'm out of practice. Sarah smiled. The guest room sounds nice, if you're sure. I'm sure. James showed her to a room across the hall. Pale yellow walls, clean sheets, a stack of books on the nightstand. Sarah recognized some of the titles. Medical texts, nursing manuals, Catherine's books. I should have moved those, James said quickly. Sorry, I wasn't expecting... They're fine, I like them. Sarah ran her fingers over the spines. She read a lot. Constantly. Drove me crazy sometimes. She'd stay up until 2 in the morning reading about new treatments, new studies, always looking for ways to help her kids. James leaned against the door frame. Bathroom's 2 doors down. Towels in the cabinet, if you need anything. I'll be fine, thank you. Okay, well, good night. Good night. James left. Sarah sat on the bed, still wearing her jeans and sweater sling twisted around her torso. Her reflection stared back from the mirror across the room. Messy hair, smudged makeup, one arm. But her eyes looked different. Brighter maybe, like something inside had shifted. She texted Emma, staying in the guest room. He's a gentleman. Stop panicking. Emma, I'm not panicking. I'm thrilled. Also terrified. Also planning your wedding. Also demanding details. Sarah, there's no wedding. We're just trying. Emma, that's how it starts. Trust me. Sarah, go to sleep. You have a shift in 4 hours. Emma, so do you. Sarah looked at the clock. 3:30. She needed to be at the hospital by 8. That left 4.5 hours of sleep if she fell asleep immediately. She changed into a t-shirt James had left on the bed, clearly one of his. It hung to her knees. She washed her face, brushed her teeth with a spare toothbrush she found in the bathroom, and climbed into bed. The sheets smelled like lavender. The house was quiet, except for the sound of James moving around downstairs. Tools clanking, music playing softly. He was still working. Sarah closed her eyes. For the first time in 7 years, she fell asleep feeling something other than alone. She woke at 7 to the smell of coffee and burning toast. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Her shoulder ached, but in a good way, like muscles waking up after too long a sleep. She found James in the kitchen swearing at a toaster. "This thing's possessed," he said without turning around. "I've burned 4 pieces of bread." 4? How is that even possible? Sarah laughed. "Maybe stop walking away while it's toasting." Revolutionary idea. James finally turned around. His eyes went soft when he saw her in his shirt. "Morning. You sleep okay?" "Better than I have in years." Sarah poured herself coffee. "What time did you finally come to bed?" 5. Maybe I finished framing the wall in the dining room. James abandoned the toaster. "I do my best work when my brain won't shut up." "What was your brain saying?" "A lot of things, mostly that I'm terrified of screwing this up." James handed her a muffin from a bakery box. "I went out at 6 and got these, from an actual bakery, not the terrible coffee shop." Sarah accepted the muffin. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to. Besides, I already ruined breakfast trying to make toast. Figured I'd hedge my bets." James poured his own coffee. "Can I drive you to work? Your car's still here, but you probably shouldn't drive with one arm." "I've been driving with one arm for 7 years. Humor me." "Humor," Sarah smiled. "Okay." They drove to St. Catharines in James's truck, morning traffic crawling along Lakeshore Drive. The sun turned the lake into liquid gold. Joggers ran along the path. Normal people living normal lives. "Can I ask you something?" James said. "Shoot." "Last night, when you were talking about David, about apologizing to him for being too much trouble." James's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Do you still believe that you're too much trouble?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Some days, yes. Most days, actually. And today. Today, I'm trying not to." Sarah looked out the window. "Today, I'm trying to believe that maybe the right person doesn't see me as trouble, just as me. For what it's worth, you're not trouble. You're just someone dealing with a shitty situation and doing the best you can." James pulled into the hospital parking garage. "And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve you." Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt, leaned over, kissed James on the cheek. "Thank you." James touched his cheek like she'd left a mark. "What was that for?" "For saying exactly what I needed to hear. Again." Sarah opened the door. "Same time tomorrow." "You want to see me tomorrow?" "If you're offering." "I'm offering. I'll pick you up at 5. We can get actual dinner, somewhere that doesn't involve construction debris." "I like the construction debris." "You're weird." "You're noticing this now." James grinned. "Get to work. I'll text you." Sarah walked into the hospital wearing James's shirt under her coat and the sling over her shoulder. Maria was at the nurse's station filling out charts. "Well, well," Maria said, eyeing Sarah's outfit. "Someone had a good night." "It's not what you think." "Uh-huh. That's why you're glowing and wearing men's clothing." Maria smiled. "James is good people, Sarah. Catherine loved him more than life. You could do a lot worse." "We're just trying. No pressure." That's how Catherine and James started, too. Just trying. Next thing you know, they were married with a kid. Maria squeezed Sarah's hand. "Don't overthink it. Just let it be what it is." Sarah's first patient was waiting. Mr. Chen's 68-stroke victim relearning to walk. He looked at Sarah's sling, but didn't comment. They worked through exercises. Step, rest, step. Mr. Chen's left side was weak from the stroke. He trembled with effort. "I can't do this," he said, frustrated. "I'll never walk normal again." "Normal's overrated," Sarah said. "You're walking. That's what matters." "But I'm broken." "No, you're healing. There's a difference." Sarah helped him balance. "You know what I learned? Broken doesn't mean finished. It just means different." Mr. Chen looked at her sling. "You learned that from experience." "Yeah, I did." "Does it get easier?" "Some days. Other days it's still hard. But you show up anyway. That's all you can do." Mr. Chen took another step, then another. By the end of the session, he was smiling. "Same time Thursday?" Sarah asked. "Same time Thursday." The day passed in a blur of patience and paperwork and texts from James. "Thinking about you. Hope your day's good. Burned more toast. Send help." At 5 o'clock, Sarah walked out to find James's truck waiting. He'd changed shirts, shaved, made an effort. "Where to?" Sarah asked, climbing in. "There's a place Catherine loved, Italian. Real Italian, not Olive Garden. They know me there. I've been going since she died. Always alone." James looked at her. "Want to go with me?" "Are you sure if it's special?" "That's exactly why I'm sure." James pulled out of the parking lot. "Catherine would have liked you, and I think it's time I stopped eating anniversary dinners alone." They drove to Little Italy, found a small restaurant tucked between brownstones. Inside, an older man with white hair and a thick accent greeted James with a hug. "Jimmy, and who is this beautiful lady?" "Marco, this is Sarah. Sarah Marco. He owned this place for 40 years. James smiled. "Catherine's favorite spot." Marco's eyes went soft. "Ah, Catherine. We miss her, every day." He turned to Sarah. "You are special, yes, if Jimmy brings you here." "I hope so," Sarah said honestly. Marco seated them at a corner booth, brought wine without being asked, disappeared into the kitchen. "He's going to cook everything Catherine loved," James said. "Fair warning, we'll be here for hours." "I have nowhere else to be." James reached across the table, took Sarah's left hand. "Neither do I." And for the first time since the accident, since David, since everything fell apart, Sarah looked at her life and didn't see what was missing. She saw what was there. James, Emma. The possibility that broken people could build something whole. She saw hope, and that was enough. Marco returned with enough food to feed a small army. Pasta carbonara, osso buco, fresh bread that steamed when he broke it open. He set each plate down with reverence, telling stories about Catherine as he moved. "She always ordered the carbonara," Marco said, spooning pasta onto Sarah's plate. "But she'd eat half of Jimmy's osso buco when she thought I wasn't looking. Every time. For 15 years, every time." James laughed. "I used to order extra just so she'd have enough." "I know. You think I'm blind." Marco winked at Sarah. "That's love. When you order extra so the other person can pretend they're not hungry." After Marco left, Sarah stared at the carbonara. "I can't eat all this." "You don't have to. But try it." Catherine said Marco's carbonara could heal broken hearts. James took a bite of his osso buco, closed his eyes. "God, I forgot how good this is." "When's the last time you came here?" 3 months ago, the anniversary." James set down his fork. "I sat in this exact booth, ordered Catherine's meal and mine, left hers untouched, paid for both and left. That's heartbreaking. It was stupid, wasteful, but I couldn't stop myself." James met her eyes. "This is the first time I've come here and actually wanted to be here. Not because I'm torturing myself with memories, but because I'm making new ones." Sarah took a bite of carbonara. The flavors exploded on her tongue. Rich, creamy, perfect. Oh my God. Right. Marco wasn't lying. This could heal anything. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The restaurant filled up around them. Families, couples, an elderly woman dining alone with a book. Life continuing in all its messy glory. "Can I ask you something personal?" Sarah said. "We're past the point of impersonal questions." "What happened with Rebecca after Catherine died?" "You said she threatened to move back home." James wiped his mouth. "Rebecca was 18 when Catherine died. About to start Northwestern, full scholarship. Catherine made her promise she'd go anyway, no matter what happened." He paused. "Catherine died in August. Rebecca moved into her dorm 2 weeks later. That must have been impossible." "It was, but Catherine insisted. Said she didn't fight this hard to have Rebecca throw away her future." James's voice went quiet. "The thing is, Rebecca wanted to stay, wanted to take care of me, and I let her think I needed her. For about 6 months I let my daughter put her life on hold to make sure I was eating and showering and not drinking myself to death." "You were grieving." "I was selfish. There's a difference." James pushed pasta around his plate. "One night, Rebecca came home from a class she'd skipped to check on me. Found me sitting in Catherine's closet surrounded by her clothes crying like an idiot. And Rebecca just looked at me and said, 'Dad, Mom would be so pissed at both of us right now.'" Sarah felt her throat tighten. "What did you do?" "I told her she was right. That Catherine would have kicked both our asses for wasting time she'd fought to give us." James smiled sadly. Rebecca said, "So stop, get help, see a therapist, join a grief group, do something other than drowning." So I did. Just like that. Not just like that. It took months. A lot of failed attempts. A lot of backsliding. James met Sarah's eyes. "But I kept showing up, to therapy, to the grief group, to life, because Rebecca was counting on me, and because Catherine had fought too hard for me to give up." "Is that when you started renovating the house?" "Yeah, my therapist suggested it, said I needed a project, something physical, something I could control when everything else felt chaotic." James laughed without humor. "Turns out I'm better at tearing things down than building them up. 3 years later and the house is still a disaster." "Maybe you weren't ready to build yet." "Maybe. Or maybe I was waiting for a reason." James reached across the table, took Sarah's hand. "You asked what happens now, after coffee and pizza and burned toast. I think this is what happens. We stop waiting for permission to be happy. We stop punishing ourselves for surviving." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if I know how to do that." "Me neither. But we can figure it out together." Marco appeared with tiramisu. Set it between them with 2 spoons. "Catherine's favorite. On the house. For love." He patted James's shoulder. "She would be happy, Jimmy. I feel it." After Marco left, Sarah picked up her spoon. "Do you really think she'd be happy about us?" "Yeah, I do." James took a bite of tiramisu. Catherine wasn't jealous. She was practical. She knew I'd be lost without her. Knew I'd need someone to remind me how to live. He paused. The night before she died, she was barely conscious. Morphine had her saying crazy things. But in a moment of clarity, she looked at me and said, "Find someone who laughs at your terrible jokes. Someone who doesn't need you to be strong all the time. Someone who gets it." "Gets what?" "That love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up for the messy parts." James set down his spoon. She said, "Don't you dare find someone easy, Jimmy. Find someone real." Sarah wiped her eyes with her napkin. "I'm definitely real. And definitely not easy." "Good. I don't want easy." James smiled. "I want you." Sarah's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. "You should check that," James said. Sarah pulled out her phone. 5 texts from Emma. The last one read, "Mom. Code red. Call me now." Sarah's heart stopped. I need to call Emma. Go, I'll get the check. Sarah stepped outside, hands shaking as she dialed. Emma picked up on the first ring. Mom, thank God. Emma's voice was shaking. Where are you? Having dinner. What's wrong? Are you okay? I'm fine, but Mom, David's here. Sarah's blood went cold. What? He showed up at the apartment 20 minutes ago, banging on the door, demanding to see you. Emma's voice was scared now. Mom, he's drunk. Really drunk. And he's saying things about you and James. How did he even know about James? Sarah's mind raced. I don't know. Did you let him in? Hell no. I called the cops. They're on their way. But Mom, he's saying he's not leaving until he talks to you. He's screaming about how you're replacing him, how you're moving on too fast. Emma paused. Mom, I'm scared. I'm coming home, right now. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone except the police. Hurry! Sarah hung up, ran back inside. James was at the table, credit card in hand. We need to go, now. Sarah grabbed her purse. My ex-husband showed up at my apartment. He's drunk and Emma's alone and James was already standing. Let's go. They ran to the truck. James drove fast but careful, weaving through traffic. Sarah's hands shook in her lap. Her mind spiraled with worst-case scenarios. He's never done this before, Sarah said. Never. Not in 3 years. Why now? Does he know about me? I don't know how he could. Unless... Sarah pulled out her phone, scrolled through her Facebook. Her profile was private, but her profile picture was visible. The photo Emma had taken that morning. Sarah in James's shirt, smiling. Shit, Sarah whispered. What? Emma tagged me in a photo, this morning. I'm wearing your shirt. David must have seen it. Sarah's voice shook. He's connected to some of my friends. He must have been stalking my page. That's not your fault. Isn't it? I shouldn't have let Emma post it. I should have been more careful. Sarah, stop. James's voice was firm. Your ex-husband being a drunk asshole isn't your fault. You're allowed to move on. You're allowed to be happy. He doesn't get to control that. They pulled up to Sarah's apartment building 15 minutes later. A police car sat in the driveway, lights flashing. David's Mercedes was parked crooked across 2 spaces. The driver's door hung open. Sarah's stomach dropped. Oh God. Stay here, James said. Like hell. Sarah was already out of the truck. They ran up the stairs together. Emma stood in the doorway with 2 police officers. When she saw Sarah, she burst into tears. Mom, thank God. Sarah pulled Emma into a hug. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? No, he couldn't get in. But Mom, the things he was saying. Emma's voice cracked. One of the officers stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm Officer Martinez. Your ex-husband is being detained downstairs. He was highly intoxicated and became combative when we tried to remove him from the property. Combative how? He took a swing at my partner, missed. We've arrested him for public intoxication and attempted assault on an officer. Martinez paused. He was also making threats toward you, saying things about making you pay for humiliating him. Sarah's knees went weak. James caught her elbow, steadied her. What kind of threats? James asked. Nothing specific enough to charge him with, but enough that we're recommending Ms. Chen file for a restraining order. Martinez handed Sarah a card. This is the number for victim services. They can help you with the paperwork. After the police left, Sarah, Emma, and James sat in the apartment. None of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Emma said, Mom, what if he comes back? He won't. Not with a restraining order. Sarah's voice was more confident than she felt. And if he does, we'll handle it. How? By calling the cops again. By hoping he doesn't actually hurt someone. Emma stood pacing. Mom, he's lost it. Completely lost it. And it's because of... She stopped, looked at James. I'm sorry. I don't mean... It's not because of James, Sarah said firmly. It's because David can't handle the fact that I'm not sitting around waiting for him to come back, that I'm actually happy for the first time in years. But if you weren't seeing James, then David would find another excuse, another reason to make my life hell. Sarah grabbed Emma's hand. This isn't James's fault. It's David's. For being a controlling, narcissistic asshole who can't accept that I moved on. James stood. I should go. Give you two space to process this. No. Sarah's voice was sharp. Don't go, please. Sarah, Emma's right. My being here is making things complicated. Your being here is the only thing keeping me sane right now. Sarah walked to James, took his hand. David doesn't get to win. He doesn't get to scare me into being alone, into being small. I'm done with that. Emma watched them. Mom, are you sure? I mean, it's only been 2 days. I know. And maybe we're moving fast. Maybe this is crazy. Sarah looked at James. But I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions. I'm tired of David having any power over my life. James squeezed her hand. What do you need? Tell me and I'll do it. Stay tonight. Both of you just stay. I don't want to be alone. They ordered Chinese food, none of them ate. Tried to watch a movie, none of them watched. Emma eventually fell asleep on the couch, curled under a blanket. Sarah and James sat in the kitchen drinking tea. Neither of them wanted. You can still change your mind, James said quietly. About us. This is a lot. Your ex showing up drunk, police, restraining orders. If it's too much, it is too much. All of it. Sarah set down her mug. But not because of you. Because David made it too much. He saw me happy and couldn't handle it. What did Emma mean about him losing it? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. David remarried 2 years ago to a woman named Melissa, 28, yoga instructor. Everything I'm not. Sarah's voice went flat. According to Emma, Melissa left him 6 months ago, took half his money and married someone else. David's been spiraling ever since. So he saw you happy and snapped. Yeah. Saw that I'd moved on while he was falling apart. His ego couldn't take it. Sarah laughed bitterly. The irony is, he left me because I was too broken, too much work. And now he's the broken one. That's not irony, that's karma. Maybe, but karma doesn't stop him from showing up drunk and scaring my daughter. Sarah's hands shook. What if he comes back, James? What if a restraining order isn't enough? Then we deal with it, together. James covered her hands with his. I'm not going anywhere. Not because of David. Not because this is hard. I told you I want to try. That doesn't change just because things get complicated. Most people would run. I'm not most people. And after 3 years of grief therapy, I'm pretty good with complicated. James smiled softly. Besides, Catherine would haunt me if I bailed at the first sign of trouble. Sarah felt tears forming, again. She'd cried more in the last 2 days than the previous 2 years combined. I'm sorry you're getting dragged into this. I'm not being dragged. I'm choosing. James stood, pulled Sarah up. Come on, you need sleep. Tomorrow you're filing that restraining order and going to work and living your life. David doesn't get to take that from you. Sarah checked on Emma, still asleep, breathing steady. Then she and James stood in the hallway, not quite knowing what came next. You can take my bed, Sarah said. I'll sleep on the floor with Emma. Don't be ridiculous. I'll take the floor. James, you're 54 with a bad back from construction work. And you're 48 with one arm and an injured shoulder. We're both disasters. James smiled. How about this? We both take your bed, fully clothed, on top of the covers, just sleeping, no pressure. Sarah's heart hammered. You sure? I'm sure. Unless you're not comfortable. I'm comfortable. Just surprised. Why? Because most men would be pushing for more by now. I'm not most men. And I'm too tired to be anything other than honest. James touched her face gently. I like you, Sarah, a lot. But I'm not in any rush. We have time. They lay on opposite sides of Sarah's bed, still dressed, not touching. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator hissing and Emma's soft snoring from the living room. James, Sarah whispered into the darkness. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. For defending me at the restaurant. For coffee and pizza and burned toast. For staying tonight even though my life's a disaster. Your life's not a disaster. It's just complicated. James turned to face her. And you're welcome. But Sarah? Yeah. You defended yourself first. At that restaurant. I just backed you up. Don't forget that. Sarah rolled to face him. In the darkness, she could barely make out his features. But she felt his presence. Steady. Solid. Real. Can I tell you something? Sarah asked. Always. I think Catherine was right about you. About what? That you're someone worth fighting for, someone worth keeping. Sarah's voice cracked. And I think she'd be happy that you found someone who sees that. James's hand found hers in the darkness. Held on. I think she'd be happy I found you too. They fell asleep like that. Hands clasped, fully clothed. Two broken people choosing each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. Sarah woke at 6 to her alarm and James already gone. Panic seized her chest until she smelled coffee and heard voices in the kitchen. She found James and Emma sitting at the table eating toast and laughing about something. Morning, Emma said, spotting Sarah. James makes better toast than you. Just FYI. That's a low bar, Sarah said, accepting the coffee mug James handed her. I didn't burn it. That's progress. James smiled at her. How'd you sleep? Better than expected. Sarah sat down. What time did you get up? 5. Couldn't sleep. Didn't want to wake you. James gestured to the papers on the table. I printed the restraining order forms. We can fill them out together. Drop them at the courthouse on your way to work. Emma looked between them. You're really doing this. Both of you. The whole relationship thing. We're trying, Sarah said carefully. Is that okay? Okay, Mom. It's more than okay. It's about damn time. Emma stood, grabbed her coat. I have to get to work. But James? Can we talk for a second? James followed Emma to the hallway. Sarah couldn't hear what they said, but she saw Emma hug James. Saw James nod at whatever she was telling him. When James came back, his eyes were wet. What did she say? Sarah asked. She said Catherine would have liked me. That any woman who made her husband promise to find happiness again was someone special. James sat down heavily. Then she said if I hurt you, she'd make sure I regretted it. But if I made you happy, she'd be the first one cheering us on. Sarah's throat tightened. She's protective. She loves you. That's not protection. That's devotion. James took Sarah's hand. You raised an incredible kid, Sarah, against impossible odds, while dealing with pain and divorce and rebuilding your entire life. That's not failure. That's triumph. I don't feel triumphant. You are, though. You just can't see it yet. James squeezed her hand. Come on, let's fill out these forms so we can make sure David stays the hell away from you. They spent an hour at the courthouse filing paperwork. A sympathetic clerk fast-tracked the temporary order. David would be served by end of day. He's going to be furious, Sarah said as they walked to James's truck. Let him be furious from a distance. James opened her door. You ready for work? No, but I'm going anyway. James dropped Sarah at St. Catherine's. Before she got out, he leaned over and kissed her forehead. Text me if you need anything. I'll be working on the house, but I've got my phone. You don't have to check on me every hour. I know, but I'm going to anyway. Sarah walked into the hospital feeling lighter somehow. Despite David. Despite the restraining order. despite everything still being uncertain and scary. Maria caught her at the nurse's station. "Heard you had an exciting night." "How did you—" "Emma texted me. Asked if I could keep an eye on you today. Make sure you're okay." Maria squeezed Sarah's shoulder. "You doing okay?" "Honestly, I don't know. My ex showed up drunk. I filed a restraining order. And I slept in the same bed as a man I met 3 days ago." Sarah laughed shakily. "It's a lot." "It is, but you're handling it." Maria handed Sarah a coffee. "From James. He dropped it off 10 minutes ago. Said you'd need the caffeine." Sarah stared at the cup, her name written in James's handwriting. 2 sugars, just how she liked it. "He's a good one," Maria said softly. "Don't let fear talk you out of this. What if it's too fast? What if we crash and burn?" "Then you crash and burn. But at least you tried." Maria smiled. "Catherine used to say something. She said life's too short to play it safe. That the biggest regret is the chances you didn't take." Sarah thought about that all day, between patients, during lunch, while helping Mr. Chen take his 50th step of the session. At 3 o'clock, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello." Sarah Chen. A woman's voice, professional. "Yes." "This is Officer Martinez. I wanted to let you know that David Chen was served with the restraining order an hour ago. He's been informed he cannot contact you or come within 500 feet of you or your residence." "How did he react?" Martinez hesitated. "He was upset, but he signed the acknowledgement. Ms. Chen, I'd recommend being vigilant for the next few weeks. Keep your phone charged, park in well-lit areas. Let people know where you are." Sarah's hands shook. "You think he'll violate it?" "I think men who show up drunk making threats don't always respect court orders. I hope I'm wrong, but please be careful." After Martinez hung up, Sarah sat in the break room trying to steady her breathing. Her phone buzzed. Text from James Hurd, David was served. "How are you holding up?" Sarah typed, scared. "Officer says to be vigilant. James. I'm coming to get you after work. No arguments. Sarah. I have my car here. James. Then I'll follow you home. Make sure you get there safe. Sarah. You don't have to? James, I know, but I'm going to. At 5 o'clock, Sarah walked out to find James's truck parked next to her car. He was leaning against the driver's door, reading something on his phone. "You waited 2 hours, Sarah said. "I finished early at the house. Figured I'd rather wait here than wonder if you're safe." James straightened. "You okay?" "No, but I'm getting there." Sarah unlocked her car. "You really going to follow me home?" "Every day until we know David's not a threat." James smiled. "Get used to it." Sarah drove home with James's truck in her rear-view mirror. Solid. Dependable. There. When they got to her apartment, James walked her upstairs. Checked every room. Made sure windows were locked. "I feel like I'm being ridiculous," Sarah said. "You're being safe. There's a difference." James handed her his phone. "Put your number in here, with 911 on speed dial. If anything feels wrong, and I mean anything, you call." "James? Promise me, Sarah." She promised. James left an hour later after making sure Emma was home and the door was locked and Sarah had eaten something resembling dinner. "I'll pick you up tomorrow," James said at the door. 7:30, coffee before work. This is becoming a routine. Good. I like routines. James kissed her forehead. "Lock this behind me." Sarah did. Stood with her back against the door, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Protected. Cared for. Worth fighting for. Emma emerged from her room. "He's really serious about you." "I think so." "Good. Because Mom—" Emma's voice went soft. "I haven't seen you this happy since before the accident. Before Dad. Before everything fell apart. And I think you deserve this. Whatever this is." Sarah pulled Emma into a hug. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. She taught me that showing up is half the battle. The other half is believing you're worth showing up for. That night, Sarah lay in bed thinking about everything that had changed in 3 days. A cruel date that ended with a stranger's kindness. Coffee and burned toast and pizza on construction site floors. David showing up drunk and police lights and restraining orders. And through it all, James, steady, present. Choosing her again and again, even when things got complicated. Her phone buzzed. Text from James, sleep well. Tomorrow's a new day. Sarah smiled at her phone. Typed back, tomorrow's a new day. And I'm not facing it alone. James? No, you're not. Not anymore. Sarah set down her phone, closed her eyes. And for the first time since the accident, since David left. Since her whole world shattered, Sarah Chen fell asleep believing she might actually be worth loving after all. Not despite her scars, not despite her missing arm, not despite the mess her life had become, but because of all of it. Because she'd survived. Because she'd shown up even when it terrified her. Because she'd put a prosthetic arm on a table and dared the world to see her completely. And someone had. James had seen her. Maria had seen her. Emma had always seen her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe being seen was the first step to believing you were worth it. Sarah didn't know what came next. If this thing with James would last. If David would stay away. If she'd ever stop being scared of happiness. But she knew this tomorrow, she'd wake up and try again. She'd wear the sling. She'd help patients walk. She'd drink coffee with a man who made her believe in second chances. And maybe that was all anyone could do. Show up. Try. Believe they deserved more than cruelty gave them. The rest would figure itself out. Or it wouldn't. But either way, Sarah Chen wasn't hiding anymore.